I'm Alan Bresnick from Light Reading. We're here in Las Vegas at the NAB show. We just did a breakfast forum on getting to OTT 2.0. I'm speaking right now to Rob Wilmoth from Red Hat. Hi, Rob.
Hi, how's it going?
Okay. So, Rob, tell us about Red Hat's perspective on the OTT market and how complex it's becoming and where you see the opportunities right now.
Yeah, so Red Hat really has a vantage point that as things get further to the edge, as things get further toward the end customer and subscriber, the complexity is going to grow.
Right.
What we're seeing is that individual pieces of applications are getting chunked out into what are known as microservices, and when things get smaller, they tend to be more efficient, so it helps with the QoE, QoS issues that are starting to become prevalent in the industry. However, you run into a bit of a management nightmare. You're kind of stepping all over each other. If you are relying on an actual human to trigger certain things, it just starts getting slow, and now your QoE, QoS issue is right back where it started, just in a different area. Red Hat is trying to help by looking to different upstream communities, looking to open source to help innovate with some of the automation technologies that we can bring forward, some of the orchestration pieces, and furthermore, some of the day two management pieces on how we actually manage this going forward. A lot of people are really focused on getting things stood up right now. We think that's great. We're here to help. We're talking to a lot of the tier ones. We're talking to a lot of the smaller organizations that are trying to get their OTT streaming services started. But if they can't manage it long term, if they can't do zero touch or even just one touch provisioning, if they can't get the data from the endpoint back to the data center to actually do intellectual and AI type things with it, these complexities are simply going to continue to grow to the point that it's almost unmanageable.
That's interesting. At Light Reading, we hear about and write about open source all the time, but we don't hear about open source and its role in the video world much. So it's interesting to see how it's getting applied to the video world. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So with regard to what Red Hat's paying attention to, our business model has always been open source. We've been out for a little over 2 decades now, and we are working heavily to make sure that the use cases for the video market are being taken into account with the products and technologies that we're releasing, as well as the things that are being contributed back to the upstream communities as well. We actually work directly in these upstream communities, so we're working with the tier 1 carriers, not only in the media space but also in the telco space, to figure out how all of these things actually come together. We're working on things such as integrations. We're seeing a lot of situations where acquisitions are happening. I mean, most of the very big popular ones as of late are a little bit further back, but Charter, Time Warner Cable, most recently AT&T, Time Warner Media. We're trying to make sure that in the video space, the different technologies that have to come together to a unified platform to make all of this work isn't something that is so far out in left field that it doesn't make sense, or it isn't working smoothly, because obviously if your subscriber doesn't get a smooth transition or a smooth experience, they're off to the next thing. We already know that. From an upstream and an open source perspective, this is really Red Hat's forte. We don't provide solutions to our end customers that aren't baked in open source. Everything we do is open source. What we're trying to do is come together with the partners and the ecosystem to provide a foundation and a platform that can be built on, that is universally accepted and is also something that can be innovated on top of. So we provide the foundation with the security, we provide the network performance, we provide all of the additional performance tuning that Red Hat is uniquely capable of doing, still pushing it back into the upstream, still pushing it back into open source, but then furthermore allowing the customer to continue innovating, bringing in their other partners, and then we work with them as though we're just one partner group.
Okay, so what's next for you then?
What's next? That's a loaded question. The big thing next for Red Hat is taking a look at MFV and MFC, so media function virtualization, media function containers. We're taking a hard look at what the right thing to do for the customer is. We have certain things that lend itself very easily to being containerized, to being virtualized, but you have to look at kind of fit for purpose, look at the business value of putting things in certain places to make sure that once the end subscriber, once the consumer, or even once the network that's actually pushing it out has the right business strategy to take advantage of that. A few comments were made during the panel about whether or not certain things were going to be profitable in the future. profitability is going to literally be a function of how slim we can actually get some of these various components to make sure that they are functional within those environments.
So virtual media functions, is this more for the content providers or for the service providers, or both?
I think it's going to be for both. I think you're going to see a situation where the media providers are doing this in a different way, but they're still going to have to leverage it in order to be functional alongside of the content providers themselves.
Rob, that's very interesting. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much.
Sure.